So yeah, thanks to everyone for joining. This is going to be kind of a bit of an informal look through sending transactional email at scale on Bubble. I guess for anyone who doesn't know me or anything about me, I'm James. I run a SaaS application built with Bubble called Userloop. It's a Shopify survey app, and it allows basically Shopify store owners to survey their customers and collect customer feedback. So I've been working on it full time for about a year now. I've surveyed millions of customers, and obviously a big part of that is sending email, because there's kind of two main ways that we run surveys. Really, one is through the Shopify checkout, and the other one is by sending emails to customers after they've purchased. So I guess, as you can imagine, there are quite a few emails that we send, and there's some interesting kind of challenges and stuff that I've noticed that we're going to kind of share with you today. So I thought I would just start by kind of giving you a bit of an overview of some of the basic concepts and basically what I'm talking about when I'm talking about transactional email in Bubble. So I thought I'd just quickly show these parts of the app and then of my app, and then we're going to go through and look how to set up two platforms. So we're going to look at Postmark, which is super popular. Really easy way to get started with transactional email. And we're also going to take a look at Resend, which is a new kind of Y Combinator startup for email. It's really good for sending bulk email, and yeah, super easy to set up as well. So let me just share my screen. By the way, as we're going, I think you should be able to write questions and and comments and stuff. Yeah, I am going to cover why I've chosen these two. I have looked at SendGrid as well, and I did use that for a while, and I personally had some kind of deliverability issues with it. Let me just find the right window here. Perfect. Cool. So I'm going to pin that one, and hopefully now you can see the right screen, and we're going to go through all of these. So what I'll probably do with questions and comments and stuff is come back to them at the end, because I'll be kind of flipping back and forth. But I think on the bottom right, there is an actual, in the activities tab, there is like a Q&A where you can write questions in there, because I might get a bit lost with the chat, because there might be loads to go through at the end. So if you want to ask questions, chuck them in the Q&A, and we'll get to those when we get there. Cool. So this is the app, Userloop, and I'm just going to quickly show you the email parts. So obviously it's all about sending surveys, and some of those surveys are by email. So you write all your questions, and then you can design your email. So depending on what kind of survey you've got, you might be doing like kind of customer satisfaction one. Just trying to find a different style here. Yeah, so you can have like customer satisfaction email, and obviously there's all this kind of stuff that is injected into the email template, like the customer's logo, the question, all this stuff. So obviously when you send this out, you want to be putting in all of the customized stuff, and and users can kind of customize their style and pick whatever design they like. So it's super flexible. So that's kind of a bit of what that looks like. And then on the activity tab, people can actually track all the emails that the system sent and whether they've been opened and all this kind of thing as well. And this is all using the Postmark and Resend APIs to track all of this. So let's kind of take a look at how we set all of this up. So when you first get started with Postmark, it's super cheap, easy to sign up and get going with. There's a couple of things that it is worth setting up at the beginning, particularly because Google has got a lot more strict with their deliverability and their requirements around what you've got to set up for your domain. Yeah, I am recording it, Kelly. Yeah, so there's a ton of stuff that you've got to set up. Only it's very quick, and it doesn't actually cost you anything apart from a bit of time. So the first one is that DKIM. If you're using Postmark, is actually very easy, and it guides you through it step by step. So it gives you all the keys, and you've just got to go into your host, Cloudflare or whatever, and put all these keys in, and then it will verify that you've got DKIM set up correctly. The other one, which is new, which is kind of hot, is DMARC. This made a massive difference on my deliverability when I got this set up. So this is well worth setting up. And it is worth noting that Postmark offer a free DMARC tracking tool. If you just Google it, you're going to find loads of tools that are trying to like sell you a SaaS license. But this one from Postmark is awesome. It's free. It does the job. Sends you an email every week with the stats around how many the alignment between all of the emails that you're sending, and how, like, your report basically. But you don't need to worry too much about it. This is probably when you're getting into sending lots and lots of emails, but it is worth setting up. So the next thing to know is that in Postmark, we're going to be using their template language. So there's two options really when sending from Bubble. You can, and we're going to talk about what both of these and why you might use one over the other and a bit more. So one is using a template. So this is where you set up a template in Postmark, and then when you send your post request to Postmark, you're basically just sending a little bit of JSON that injects stuff like the customer's name, their, what products they've bought, all this kind of stuff, and it injects it into the template that you've set up in Postmark. This is really good because it allows you to do loops and things like that. So maybe if you've got an e-commerce app and you want to list like 10 products that customers bought, you can build that in really nicely, and it's all here in this kind of templating language. A side note is that ChatGPT is actually excellent at writing this templating language. So I certainly took me a while to pick it up, but ChatGPT is awesome at helping you do stuff, particularly with the looping. So what I wanted to do is go into Postmark and basically set up an email and a template and send an email from Bubble, just so we've covered this and how to do it. So this is kind of what you'll see when you come into Postmark for the first time. I've just set up a kind of a test account here where we can play around. And in Postmark, they have this concept of message streams, and this is quite important. I had some problems with this because I set it up wrong the first time. So there's this concept of broadcasts and transactional email. So like transactional email is stuff like sending the user a password reset, or stuff in your application that is just they have directly requested, and it's it's the nuts and bolts of your app. So maybe notifications would fall into that as well. It's just the day-to-day running stuff of your app, and you should use that transactional stream to send that. And if you're sending broadcasts, this covers more kind of marketing type communications. So you really want to be making sure that if you are sending kind of marketing type emails, that you use in that broadcast channel, because you can get into trouble if you don't do that. So that is well worth knowing. There's actually not really any difference in terms of the API of how it's set up. It's just it's kind of good to know. I think they treat it differently on the back end. And in here as well, you'll see you've got your templates. So these are the templates that we're going to use to send our email and inject the code into. So we're going to get started, let's just make a template. So there is this tool that I use. I think it has a pretty good free plan, and it is awesome, called Postcards, not connected to Postmark. It's made by Design Modo. And I think you can do quite a lot on their free plan now. I'm using the free plan here. And basically what it is, it's a really nice drag and drop builder for building nice transactional emails. It has a ton of pre-made stuff in here that you can use to build your email. Because half the time, I don't know if you've come across this as well, but when I've been trying to do these transactional emails, you're looking for really nice templates, or you're trying to find like SaaS email templates, and it's a nightmare half the time. This has tons of stuff in it already, and it's really easy to use. And it's like compatible across all email clients as well, which is another big thing to watch out for if you're sending loads of these. So let's just get started with designing this. It's drag and drop. So I'm going to put a header on there. Let's pretend we're doing an e-commerce email actually. And we'll put in some transactional stuff, maybe about products that this customer's purchased, kind of stuff. And let's stick a footer on here as well. And that's got our unsubscribe link in. Now, if you've got kind of hard-coded stuff in this email, like maybe your brand logo and all of that, you can go in here and set all of that. But some of this is going to be dynamic content that you're going to want to inject and send from Bubble. So we'll kind of edit that when we get into Postmark. I'm not actually going to make any further changes than this right now, as it's just a demo. But obviously, if it's your brand, you want to design it up how you want. So I'm going to get the code for this. Just going to copy the email code. And it's just going to copy it to my clipboard. You can download it as a zip as well. I think you get 5 exports a month. But a lot of the time with these transactional emails, you're just building the email and then you don't really touch them that often. So it's for me, I've kind of spent a lot of time designing my template, but then I kind of set it and leave it. So it's not often that I'll be updating it. So if we come back into Postmark, I'm going to say, let's add a template. I'm going to code my own. They've got some basic ones in here that you can use if you want, but I didn't really like them. And they got this concept of layouts. So if you really want to go for it and you like commit to Postmark 100%, you can use this layout feature. And this basically will inject header and footer into all your emails. So like if you change your address or something, you only got to update your layout and it will update it across all your templates. We're not going to bother with that for now. We're just going to use this template that we just made. And then we come in here and we come into the kind of the Postmark template editor. And to start with, all I'm going to do is just paste in all that code that we just got from postcards. Super confusing. But there we go. And there's our like live preview of that email. So we can see, okay, cool. That's our email ready in there. Obviously, nothing in here is dynamic right now. So we're going to go and do a few bits with this. So I'm going to give it a name. Let's call it e-commerce template. And the subject, we definitely want, you definitely want the subject to be dynamic. I couldn't think of a reason why not. So we're going to put some curly brackets in there and make the subject dynamic. And you'll see how we utilize all of this in a minute. And in the email itself, again, ChatGPT is your friend for doing like really complex edits. But what I'm going to do is just going to scroll down to that bit of text that we were looking at, like the opening bit to the email. So you don't have to be a mega coder. You just got to really find that string. So you can see here it says you haven't completed a purchase, and let's just say we want to put the customer's name in there. I'm going to just put curly brackets, name, a dash. You haven't completed your purchase. And again, like if we wanted to, we could go in and do and turn some of these into like repeating blocks, like for the products and stuff like that. If we did want to inject all this product stuff, it's totally possible. I've written a bit about it, and I think I've done a video on it before. So if you are interested in doing that really advanced stuff, there's that other content. I'll put a link out afterwards for that. But for this example, let's just stick the name in there, and maybe let's customize this button here to make it interesting. So I'm just going to do search, find that text. It was complete your purchase, something like that. Here we go. So let's replace that with some curly brackets. We'll call it button text. No spaces in these, by the way. So just use like underlines if you want to do those. Preview again, and we should see, okay, we've got this placeholder here where our customer's name is going to go, and the button is going to be dynamic as well. So when we're ready to start sending this from Bubble, we just got to get our code examples. And you'll see here, it's giving you basically a curl request that you can copy this. It's got your API key in it, your token. So obviously that I'm going to delete that after. If I head back over into Bubble, and in the API connector, and in here I've got one set up for Postmark, and I'm going to import from Perl, paste in what we just did, and there we go. There's everything we need to send that. So we've got who the email is going to be from, who it's going to go to, the template alias, which was the name of that template that we just made. Then we've got the customer's name, that button text, and our subject line. I'm just going to tidy this up a bit. So we're going to say send template email, make this an action, and let's make all this dynamic too. I'll quickly do this now. But another top tip for these API kind of bodies that you have to do is ChatGPT is really good at writing these replacements. So in Bubble, obviously, you want to put these pointy brackets around stuff in here, and it can be, if you've got millions of these that I do on some of my emails, that takes ages. So if you give ChatGPT one example, it will do all of these for you. Fine to do like 5 like I'm doing, but this would take forever otherwise. Cool. One thing to watch out for when you're doing these is obviously I put these kind of quotes around these to make them JSON safe. If you're doing long blocks of text or anything with user input, I use the Bubble format as JSON safe operator and take these quotes out to make sure it's all okay and nothing is kind of wrong in there. So let's just put in the email addresses here. Use this temporary email that I've got here so we can just see what it looks like. I'm going to send it to that temporary email. I'm going to call myself James. For that button text, let's say, hi again. You might want to say different stuff for different customers. And then here, let's say, James, get an amazing deal. Let's capture the errors. Let me just double check. Yeah, action, all looks good. So if we initialize that call now, cool, looks like that's worked. So the body error code is 0, message is okay, and we get this message ID here and all the other stuff about the email. I'm going to save that. If I open up in here, you see we've got that email and it's come through. Have I not saved that template? Yeah, great. So yeah, that might help. So that probably has just changed. No, so I should be able to just do that again now. And just reinitialize that. Cool. And we should go back to the inbox. We should have another one. If my email's the same. Or is it going to be a new one? Looks like it's good. Oh no, here we go. Yep, so we've got the subject line, James, get an amazing deal. James, you haven't completed your purchase. Buy again, button all populated. So that gives you, this can be very, very quick to set up, and that you can be confident these emails are going to look great and be the same every time. So that is a very, very quick overview of Postmark. One other thing I will just quickly touch on is that I think it is very, very good practice when using Postmark with Bubble is that you notice when we run this API call here, we get back a message ID. And I personally save this into Bubble. So I have another table called email sends, and I will save every message ID that I send for a couple of reasons. One, to track how many emails that customer's sent. 2, to be able to pull details about that message. So where are we? In here. So for example, this in this list, that then lets me see, okay, that email's been opened, it's been reported as spam, whatever. Like if you've got the message ID stored in the database, you can kind of run those queries later. And actually, really importantly, it helps you find if certain customers are sending spam, which is 100% a problem, and you've got to be really vigilant for it. If you are letting users send any kind of email out through your app, it's highly likely at some point that you're going to have someone try and send a load of spam. It's happened to me loads, and it will get your account shut down if you aren't on top of it. So what I would recommend is Postmark have webhooks that you can subscribe to, and basically anytime someone presses reports an email as spam, Postmark will call that webhook and it will include that message ID in the webhook. So what I do in my app is I have a kind of an emergency shut-off valve. If a customer gets more than 2 or a couple of spam reports in a day, that fired to that webhook, I will stop email sending on their account. Because if you don't, then they can carry on sending email and basically ruin your reputation and stop everything working for all your other customers, which is not good. So yeah, definitely worth tracking on that one. So I think the next thing I was going to talk about was Resend, and another strategy for sending email. So here we've just been talking about using a template, but there are actually some downsides as well to using a JSON template like this that I've found. I think one thing for me is I found it has locked me in quite a lot to one provider, and if you are sending a lot of a large volume of email, I think it's quite nice to have options that you can change out providers if needed. I've had really stressful situations where my email sending has been stopped because I did get a load of spam reports. Not that many, but it doesn't take many to flag it up. And then basically all of your email sending is stopped. And if everything is tied into using a certain templating engine, it makes swapping out quite difficult. Well, it's going to take a while. But so what I thought we'd talk about is Resend. Now, Resend is a new email kind of API service that lets you send large volumes of email, and you can do broadcasts as well through it. So that means if you want to send like lots of emails in one go, like in batches of 500, I think they are, it's really good for that. Really good deliverability, great API and everything. It doesn't have a templating engine like Postmark, so to say. It has, you can do this kind of React formatted email with it, but what I've been using it is to send fully formatted HTML emails from Bubble, which is kind of another strategy, I guess. So that was what I was going to look into now and just show you how to do that. So you've got both options. If you want to use a templating engine, you can, or if you want to send HTML directly from Bubble, you can do that too. So if we go into Bubble, I've got Resend here. It's unbelievably simple API. If you go into Resend, you can actually go into emails and look at the API, and it will give you all of your, it will give you the curl again to set up the call. It's really simple. Easy to get going, and because there's no templating language, basically what we're going to send to it is the HTML itself. So we're going to do all of the stuff in Bubble, like injecting content and all of that. We'll do that in Bubble and then send the fully formatted HTML out to Resend to actually send the email. So I've started setting this up here, but let's just go through and look at it again. So we've got we're doing a post request here, and we're going to say we've got our from, so that's who we're sending from, who we're sending to, a subject line, and HTML, which is the actual content of the email itself. And to send these emails, I've got a backend workflow here in Bubble, send HTML email, and into this workflow, I'm sending what user is requesting it, just for the sake of this demo. and we're going to send the email. So these are all the fields that we've got from our API connector. And for the actual content, for the HTML, I've set it up here as arbitrary text, formatted as JSON safe. And for this, I wanted to just show another option for how you can generate the email templates. Obviously, earlier we just looked at postcards, which is really nice for these kind of emails. But also, if you just want to use ChatGPT, it can do some quite good emails for you. So here I've released a new feature in my app today, and I described all the feature, and I've asked ChatGPT just to write me an HTML email that I can send to my customers. You might want to start off with a template or something, but this is a fairly simple one, so this is all I need. So I'm going to take that code. This is the HTML template. We'll go into Bubble, into that field where our arbitrary text is, and in there, I'm actually gonna. I had a play with this earlier, but I'm going to delete all this and just start from fresh. And then I'm going to paste in that HTML email from ChatGPT, and then instead of using that templating language, I'm actually just going to inject stuff right directly in here. So let's say at the beginning of this email where this text is, we want to say to the user's name, I'm going to say user's name. If that name is empty, obviously we still want to show something. So we're going to use that defaulting to, and I'm just going to say there. So if the user doesn't have a name set, it's just going to say there. Otherwise, it's going to say their name. And I'm just going to stick a comma and a new line. It's going to say, hi, James. Let me just put the hi in there. Hi, James, or hi there, blah, 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 blah. And again, with all this, you can do looping and stuff like that as well. So if you wanted to have a load of rows of text like this, you might want to do a search from the database. So let's maybe say, just for the sake of example, let's search for all users. And let's format them as text. And then, so for each user, we'll show that block. I think I might have copied the wrong thing there. Let's just chop this down a bit. Let's just do this P. Yeah, so we'll just do a P tag for each user. And then it's going to inject that. So you can kind of do gnarly stuff like that as well. So if you want to put custom loops and stuff in your HTML, you can do it here. I mean, the nice thing with this then is once you've set that up, you can send that out through any email API, no problem. I could send that through Postmark. They will accept HTML. I could send it out through Resend, SendGrid, Amazon's SES. I think they all accept HTML. So it's just another trick, or it's another thing worth having in your armory. If you think you might want to be swapping out email providers, or you might want to use different email providers for different things, when you get started, you can probably just you're fine with just using Postmark, but later on you might want to start sending out some of this other stuff. So it looks like we're actually half an hour in, and I did want to leave some time for questions. So let me actually just stop this sharing. We can bring it back up if we need to take a look at anything else. So let me see if there are any questions in there or in the chat, or if anyone wants to come on and ask a question. Yeah, if anyone does have any questions, let me know about sending this kind of email, or if you'd like to come on, I can unmute you and you on. Cool. I can see we've got the first question in the Q&A. Here we go. Cool. So where do you host images for the email? Personally, I actually host them on Bubble. So I will go into Bubble, stick them in the file manager, just upload them through the admin, get the URL for the image, and then use that in my email. I don't know if Bubble approves that or not, but that's the easiest way to like get a URL for your image that you can use in your email. Obviously, you could also set up an S3 bucket if you wanted to and host it there. But yeah, that is where I tend to host it. Why use Resend as opposed to Bubble itself? I think really you would only use Resend or Postmark if you were going to be sending a large volume of email. If I'm just doing a test app for myself or whatever, yeah, I'll totally just use the built-in Bubble email. But I think the only other option in Bubble is that you can then use SendGrid. I think is the built-in kind of approved email thing. I don't reckon that much to it. I've tried it quite a bit. It seems like the product hasn't really iterated and the deliverability isn't that great. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking out Postmark or Resend. In terms of thresholds, so large volumes, I mean, I think you can get a good sense of that from the pricing plans on Postmark. So I think, let me just see. So they start the lowest band on Postmark is to send 10,000 emails a month. That's $15, and then it kind of goes up to 50,000, and then like the top plan is 1.5 million a month. And I think Resend is even larger than that, and it's still cheap. I would say Bubble handles it no problem. I send out hundreds of thousands, no problem, and deliverability is excellent. So yeah, that's no problem at all. If you want to send individualized / dynamic versions of an email to lots of users at once, how do you recommend doing that, Luke? So I think a lot of what we looked at today actually covers that. So if you're using the templating engine, every email that is sent is basically customized because you can inject tons of stuff into it. I could show you some. I'll post some examples of the transactional emails I have in my app, but they are yeah, there's a lot of very customized stuff in there. So like some of them is like ChatGPT generated stuff or OpenAI generated stuff that goes into the email. So yeah, every email is basically customized. In Bubble, is it recursive workflow to send large amounts? Yeah, it would have to be at the moment. Probably the best if you're sending like lots and lots. I would do them using like the bulk send endpoints, which is where you basically send massive chunks of the JSON, so you can send like 500 emails with one API request. So that would help, I think, with workflow units and stuff. If you're sending loads and loads, that is a good way of doing it. Let me just see if there are any other questions on the Q&A. Yeah, let me see. We've got, have you faced any issues with responsiveness, phone versus desktop, when you send out custom HTML code? No, I haven't, but that's because I'm typically using that Postcards email generator, which basically covers every email client you could imagine, and that's another really good reason to use it. It's got all the fixes in there for like old versions of Outlook or Gmail and all of that. I'm sure if anyone has ever tried to do any email template by hand, it's an absolute nightmare to get it responsive and to work on every email platform. So yeah, I really recommend just using an out-of-the-box template like Postcards and customizing the colors and stuff, because you can just waste a ton of time just trying to get basic stuff about an email to work. Cool. I think that is it then, unless there are any further questions. I will post out a link to a blog post and a video I wrote about Send It. Like, it literally outlines all of this and gives you all the stuff that you need to paste into Bubble in the API connector. If you need any of that, or of course you can just reach out to me on Twitter, X @James Devonport, and you can always reach me there. But yeah, other than that, thanks so much to Kelly and Sarah for organising this Dev Day. It's been awesome to be involved. It's great to, I've watched some great other talks today, and it's been really good. So hopefully this was a little bit helpful. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you soon.